Howdy folks, and welcome to the Bee's Knees. Today I'm gonna be talking to you guys about one of the newest premium tanks, the Tornvagn, or the way I like to call it, the Tornvagn. Yeah, this particular tank you will be able to obtain in the Christmas boxes. So good luck with that, if that's your thing. Let's talk about this tank, right? It's a cooldown warrior. It's a ridgeline warrior. It has amazing armor at the cost, as you probably noticed already, really bad mobility, right? This tank can have up to excess of 300 armor in the turret, yes? The whole turret is like 280, 300 armored, so pretty much no tier 8 really will have any chances to pen it. The only chance you'll have to pen this tank probably will be with high tier gold ammo, 340 heat or something like that. The sides of the turret are weaker though, so this tank pretty much acts like a Tornvagn. It acts like the typical Swedish heavy tank, right? As soon as you angle the turret a little bit, you will get shot in the, you will get pen in the side. So treat this thing exactly like the other Swedish heavies because it's exactly the same playstyle. You're a ridgeline warrior, you got 10 degrees of gun depression. As you can see, sometimes you do need to like move your tank to the sides a bit to like get the full potential of it. Yeah, the whole armor of this tank, well, the lower plate is kinda weak, right? Lower plate is like around 160 armor, so don't rely on bouncing in with that. This middle strip here though is like around 250, 260, so if you're lucky, people will shoot you there, well, you're gonna bounce. And of course, since you're popping with this tank cooldown at ridiculous angles, I wouldn't really like worry about getting penned here when you're working the ridge lines. But you know, if somebody goes right in front of you and face hugs you, then yeah, you will be penned. So we already established that this tank has amazing armor, right? But at what cost? Well, I can tell you that it pretty much sacrifices everything else for this armor. So the gun handling is not very good. The mobility is atrocious, right? It does have a good penetration though. It's 248 APCR. If I was to compare this tank with something, I think T-34 would be the best example. It's very similar to it, right? Both tanks have 400 alpha damage. Both tanks have 248 penetration. T-34 has AP though, so it will be easier to pen that angled armor. This one has 248 APCR. The reload time is also very bad. I managed to get it to like 12 seconds on my tank. It is pretty bad, right? Yeah. It's not as bad as a 122, I guess, but it is pretty bad. So if this is like your thing, having a tank that is virtually impenetrable cooldown, and this is not exactly great for the gameplay, mind you. Yeah, they keep adding tanks that have no weak spots cooldown. It's quite annoying. But if this is like your kind of tank, yeah, I guess you might enjoy it. Very good armor, very good gun depression levels. The only way though, I forgot to mention, this thing also has pretty bad V-range. When I was running optics, I was getting like around 450 something V-range with this tank, so the V-range levels are pretty bad. And this is pretty much one of the few tanks, or maybe the only tank, I had to compromise optics to put turbo on, because this tank has very low horsepower. It's like running 500 horsepower by default, so the power to weight ratio is pretty bad, because this is not exactly, you know, the lightest tank out there. So on this particular tank, it's the only time where I actually used my Bond turbo. Yeah, nothing else I tried really made a difference, and I gotta tell you, even with this turbo, the tank is still pretty slow. So it's really hard. I also have like field mods for this. You know, I got the 7% less penalty moving on different terrain. No matter what you do, like the mobility of this tank, well, the acceleration of this tank, right? Because once you start going downhill, it's not so bad. But the acceleration of this tank is atrocious. Like it goes really slow. So yeah, that's another thing I wanted to talk about. This is the only tank that I sacrificed optics on to be able to fix the V-range. And my logic for doing that was, well, with this tank I'm going to spend 90% of the time working a ridgeline shooting tanks right in front of me. It's not really a sniper tank. I wouldn't necessarily recommend shooting from very far away. You can if you want though, because I forgot to mention the gold ammo on this tank. 297 penetration and has 1450 velocity. That's very, very good. Really nice clap there in the light tank. That is very good. Yeah. So if you want to shoot from distance, you can try, because you got the velocity to make up for the accuracy. But considering the gun handling is not the best, this is pretty much like a in-your-face kind of tank. Same way like all the other Swedish tanks, right? You go in, stay in front of enemy, close distance, and profit because the gun handling is not very good. So to recap, this tank trades everything for its armor. Very good armor, amazing cooldown. You might even be able to, you know, sidestep a bit with it, but you know, the sides are very weak, mind you. I think the sides are like 60 armored, so if you're gonna try to sidestep with this tank, be very careful. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it against high tier tanks. But overall, very good armor, good penetration, and bad at everything else. Terrible mobility, terrible rate of fire, terrible viewing. So if your idea of a tank is like an armored behemoth that will just work the ridgelines, then this could be the tank for you. It's not necessarily a bad moneymaker. It's actually quite decent making credits, exactly the same as T-34, because you got 400 alpha. Getting 2, 3, 4 shots of damage will already net you like credit. So yeah, overall I would say it's an average tank. It is better than T-34 because the armor is miles better, but you know, T-34 is not exactly super duper tank either. So overall I'd say it's an average tank. Yeah. Well, going over the results for this tank, this was actually the first game I had in the tank and it was already an ace. It wasn't that hard, I guess, because not a lot of people have it yet. Of course, we managed to get an ace tanker, a high caliber medal, 169k credits and 10,000 XP because, you know, I used the doubles and everything. Going over to the damage part, we managed to rack up 3,871 damage, 3 kills, 1,357 base XP. We also managed to get a little bit of assist damage, 727. Like I said, don't expect to spot too much with this tank unless you're willing to compromise the terrible mobility, which not even I did. And in the end, we made 144k credits profit. Of course, we had like a mission for 50k, and we had I actually didn't have credit booster on. Yeah, we just had a mission. So considering how much damage I've done, I would say it's a decent moneymaker. Yeah, 144k profit. Well, you can say you got 80k profit, you know. I was also running rations. It's a decent moneymaker, provided you actually do a couple of shots of damage, which is not hard, you know. The penetration is good, so you can easily get 2, 3, 4, 5 shots of damage if you just play this tank cooldown. Okay, folks, so final thoughts about this tank. As far as equipment goes, the only compromise I was able to do was turbo, vertical stabs, and rammer. You really need all three. Bad gun handling, bad rate of fire, and terrible mobility, so you really need all three. Of course, this is for a more open map. If you get a city map, I suppose you can maybe compromise a bit more and sacrifice the turbo and maybe put like hardening on to get some extra HP. Of course, if it's a small map, that's what I did. But yeah, it's a tank that kind of requires a lot of compromise from your side. In any case, let me know how you guys feel about this tank in the comments below. Do you think it's a good addition to the game? Do you think you're gonna like it? Do you think it's overpowered? By all means, let me know what you think about the tank in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share the video with your friends so we can grow this bee's knees to monumental levels. Until next time, thank you guys for watching. All the best. Salutations.